Welcome to Bat Therapy, mental health through the lens of comics and film. Be a fly on the wall or a bat in the cave, listening in on a friendship built out of a love for talking Batman, comics, and the everyday struggle to achieve mental health and happiness.
We're your hosts, clinical psychologist Dr. Amelia Brown and educator and comic aficionado Keeden Hopkins. Don't forget to follow us on YouTube and social media and find our Patreon at patreon.com/battherapy.
This podcast is about providing education and understanding and is not a replacement for mental health treatment or support. If you're needing help, go to bat-therapy.com for resources.
Christmas time.
Woohoo! Or whatever holiday-y thing that you celebrate.
Also true. Yes, that's true. So Christmas, Kwanzaa, Hanukkah, Festivus.
Uh-oh. Festivus. We're missing.
That's
We're missing multiple.
Boxing Day? That one?
Isn't... this is one of those times where Bill would remind us, y'all know that you record this, right? You could just stop and look these things up. But we like to give you guys the genuine article. We are imperfect beings.
I like to show you
raised in a Christian
those rare
area of
like
the
showing
country.
those rare moments where I have
Those
a
rare
flaw.
moments where
It's not often. It's not often at all. In fact,
no, of course.
first one this quarter of the year, I think. But
So anyway, time for some Justice League.
yes, we're going to be talking about the Justice League episode, Comfort and Joy. Fun fact about this show. So first off, I absolutely love Justice League and Justice League Unlimited. It is so
good.
Well done. It's by the same squad that did, Batman the Animated Series, Superman the Animated Series, like by the same squad, and it has that same love, that same touch, and I absolutely love it. This episode is one of the only ones throughout Justice League that's only like one episode. Almost all of them are like multi-part episodes. This one and done, and it's short, sweet, and to the point, and it keeps up and follows. I love that it follows all of the different Justice League, almost all of the different Justice League members, and how they are celebrating the holidays. They go on a holiday break after saving another planet, and then they all just kind of split up. Our boy Batman volunteers to just watch in Watchtower.
I love. So you've got Martian Manhunter, you've got Jean, who is an alien, literally, and not really knowing what to do with this whole holiday thing. He's like, nah, it's okay. But then Superman is like, no, I'm, the corn-fed alien, and I'm going to show you this is great. And so he's like, here, you come with me. Bruce will love staying at Watchtower and avoiding all of the holidays. And that's like the only mention of Batman. And it's so true.
And
but he was probably like, oh, thank God.
What was also fun about this is the only episode of Justice League. I think he did some more for Justice League Unlimited, but this is the only episode of Justice League that Paul Dini actually wrote. He did a lot of producing for the DC series, but for this, he actually wrote this episode, and it was so good. I love Paul Dini. He also did my favorite video game, Batman Arkham Asylum, along with Batman Arkham City. He wrote those as well. And so I really did love like the little snippet there when I found out that he wrote it. But it's such a good episode because it shows it does such a good job of showing all the different ways that we can feel during the holidays. It's not always a happy time for people. We want it to be, but it's not always a happy time. A lot of the times people think about loss that they've dealt with because the holidays are the perfect time when normally you get a chance to see all the people you love. Well, that's not always the case, whether it's you lost someone, or someone's deployed, or someone's just long distance. There's so many different emotions that can affect you during the holidays. And I felt like this episode did such a good job of showing the human side of all
Mhm.
of our heroes. And I'm trying to decide where I want to start. I guess I'll probably start with Superman. So Superman
Mm,
is I absolutely love how Clark is in such the Christmas spirit. Like at one
I
point he
know.
corrects his parents because they're talking about how they lined his
I
presents
love that part.
in lead, and he's like, "You mean Santa lined them in lead?" I'm like,
That might be my
that's such
favorite
a
line.
Superman thing to say.
I I love, yeah, how much of a kid he is about it and how he loves the spirit of things. And in a way though that, because I think sometimes people are so into Christmas or whatever their holiday
Yes,
is that it can turn other people
true.
off. But he's the kind that draws you in. He pulls John in and says, "Hey, I want to include you in this and help you have a place
Yeah,
to go." Because Jean is someone who, of course, has lost his family. They died in the Martian wars and whatnot, and doesn't even fully understand all of these traditions and things
yeah,
on Earth. And so here, be a part of my family. Come and be invited in. And hey, you're not even the only alien. And yeah, it's cool to see Superman be that kind of
wholesome.
just, yeah, wholesome.
That
That's the word I was looking
family
for.
is
Yeah,
wholesome.
he's
The
just
Kents are
wholesome.
such nice people. And then it's just they're just the best. Like even when he shows up and it's like, "Oh, John's from Mars." And they're like, "Psh, well, we're used to aliens around here." And so it's
I
just
know.
so wholesome.
Not a
So
second
wholesome. I'm
thought.
like, gosh, why can't the Kents be on Nextdoor app instead of
Oh God, next door. I don't use
I
it. I
got rid of
can't.
mine really quick. I
I
got rid of
cannot.
Nextdoor really quick.
I cannot. Yeah, so I love, I think Jean's story is probably my favorite. And it to me ties a lot to, so a lot of the people that I work with, not always. There are a lot of people who love the holidays, but there are a lot of people who, if they have really been dealing with a lot of mental health related things, family can be really complicated. There's either a lot of loss or a lot of
Mhm.
trauma. That trauma can include abuse or neglect. Uh, there can be a lot of manipulation that happens, whether it's purposeful or
Mhm.
not, around the holidays about guilt surrounding what people should do or shouldn't do because you're family or because it's the holidays, like these ideas of um, uh, forgiving and forgetting so that we can all come together. That's not always a helpful thing, right? And so, what I love about Jean is that him and Hawkgirl, from a different
Yeah.
angle, I like them because they stand out as not not being naturally attuned to what we think of as the holiday spirit and the things that you would do during that time, but they still find a way through it. So Jean finds a way to connect with what's happening with the holidays, and it's kind of this bittersweet story for him. And you see him at the end and he's, I think, singing like a song that's probably connected to his past and his own culture, that he's singing by a window in the Kent's place, and they're like, "Oh, and he said he didn't bring a present." Right, there's this solemn yet warm growth that he's able to have. He's not letting go of being a
Yeah.
Martian, but he's finding a way forward that I really can relate to in a lot of the struggles that I hear for
Yeah.
people. And then there's Hot Girl who is like, "Give me a
Yeah. Let's just
brawl."
go
And I
get
love how
trashed and
she just
fight.
is
Like
like,
I love that.
"Let's go to a different planet, get trashed and fight." And so she's one too who's like, "You know what? This isn't this isn't my holiday. This isn't my thing, and I'm not going to force myself to do
Yeah.
that thing." I'm gonna go and do what's right for me. And so she's another version that I really like, 'cause it's like, yeah, still taking that time, making it your own. And it doesn't have to be about stockings and trees and family. It can be about, I mean, I'm not condoning going and starting a brawl or anything, but at least in the cartoons, you can go off and just fight
And I also
people.
love that Green Lantern was very accepting of what she wanted to do after she did
Yeah.
all the stuff that he wanted.
Mhm.
He was like, "Okay, let's do it." Yeah, I don't know what this drink is. I
Yep.
do not like it, and I guess
Nope.
now I'm fighting. And
Wait, why are you picking a
yeah,
fight for me? And that's a really great point too. So here's a couple that have very different ideas of what they enjoy and what they want out of this time. And you're right. It's okay. We do what Green Lantern wants, and she doesn't fully get it, but she's on
mhm,
board. And then vice versa. He's like, I don't fully get this, but okay, I'm on board. And just trying to spend the time not changing each other, but okay, how do we fully embrace Green Lantern, and then how do we fully embrace Hawkgirl? Because yeah, it is funny seeing him along
yeah,
for the
for
ride.
sure, for sure. I really do. I wish we didn't find out what Diana was up
That
was
would have
up to,
been
but apparently
I
Paul
yeah.
I was looking around at like special features and stuff, and apparently at some point Paul Dini did mention in his blog like what ideas he had for what
Yeah.
her and Bruce were
Oh,
gonna be up
interesting.
to. So I was planning on looking digging into that at some point. But I also so I know you said that your favorite storyline was Clark and Jean. I absolutely loved the Flash's storyline with
That was pretty cute.
Ultra-Humanite. It was
Yep.
it was, oh my god, it was my favorite. I Because Ultra-Humanite is such a unique character. He's just absolutely brilliant, and he's basically just disgusted with humanity's lack of intelligence, which whew, such a
Sure.
vibe in this day and age. I'm not gonna lie.
We
I'm
hear
not
you.
It's not that I'm putting myself on a high horse, but when you think about concept of averages and the average intelligence, and that's in the middle, and I just really like this storyline. I really enjoyed it because it showed I love when in a world full of gods and monsters, they can still
Mm,
manage to humanize the villains, not just the heroes. But I
yep.
love when they can humanize the villains,
Agreed.
and this was one of those rare occasions when you realize, like, okay, Ultra Humanite, he has his methods that are definitely against the law, but he's not so bad. I can feel that, and also just seeing how distraught Flash was at
Yeah.
just the misses, the misses. Like
Yeah.
we always, I feel like so many times we talk about how many people superheroes save, and a lot of the
Yeah.
times they're not counting the saves. They're counting the
They're
ones
counting the
that they
losses.
didn't save.
Mm,
And
yeah.
he was absolutely distraught. At one point, he just tells Ultra Humanite, "Yeah, go ahead and shoot me with whatever that gun does,
Mhm.
because it's not going to hurt me more than I'm hurting now after the what DJ Ducky or yeah, whatever
Whatever
that
that
thing,
ridiculous farting duck
right?"
thing was. Yeah.
He was so hurt by it, and so I really loved that, just how he went out of his way checking every single store. It really reminded me of Jingle All the Way, the Arnold Schwarzenegger one.
Me
That's what it made me think
too. I
about.
was totally wanting to
I
watch that
watch it
afterward.
every year. I love that movie.
Oh, I need to watch it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I totally thought of Jingle All the Way. Yeah. I kept picturing Schwarzenegger, in his
Yes.
attempts. Yeah. It's so there are these moments, whether it's the holidays, whether it's sometimes it's something really terrible happening, whether it's I don't know, there are these moments that can pull people that seem on very opposing sides all
Mhm.
together. And the holidays can sometimes be that. Unfortunately, sometimes we it's not as easy as, "Oh, it's Christmas time." No, it's not that, "Hey, it's Christmas, and so Ultra-Humanite and the Flash are getting along." No, they're still fighting, they're still arguing, but something happens that's part of this whole Christmas time where they realize that, "Hey, this is actually something we both
Yeah,
care about. We care about kids and being able to have something nice and be able to move forward. And they still do it in their own way, just like these
yeah.
other characters we're talking about. So Ultra Humanite, instead of making the DJ Duck whatever thing fart like it's supposed to, he has it.
It's the
What is he has it
Nutcracker.
reading a Christmas?
Yeah, yeah.
Was it the Nutcracker? Yeah, he has it reading another story, which
It was so
honestly,
much
like,
better.
I
That
much
was
preferred. It was
Colleen and
so
I
much
watched the episode
better, right?
together, and she was like, "That is the better version of this toy."
Way better. And you know, all the parents of anybody, or I guess it was an
Yeah.
orphanage there or something, but everyone, all the adults are
Oh
like,
yeah,
"Oh
this is excellent.
God, it's not, it's not,
The kids
yeah, it's not the
loved it too.
farting joke."
They were
And
so
they
appreciative of
loved
it.
it.
Like I would just be losing it that the
Yeah,
Flash came and visited me at Christmas time. Like this is awesome, right?
yeah.
And
Mm-hmm. Oh, and then the Flash gave Ultra Humanite the little Christmas tree at the
and
end.
Ultra Human
Cute.
again humanizing the character because you kind of hear him say it. It's like, oh, we had one just like this when I
Mm-hmm.
was, and he's like, oh, never mind. He doesn't want to
And you
break.
hear some nostalgia there too. And that's part of it with Christmas. It's why it can lift us up. It's also why it can bring us down, is that
Yes.
nostalgia. It really does draw, it can draw for some powerful
Hmm.
memories. And and you see just a glimpse of that with Ultra Humanite, and you see a lot with some of the other characters. But yeah, I liked seeing his little tiny bit of
Yeah. I
nostalgia
tell you,
that
it
came
was years ago. I remember there was one Christmas. It was like it was so rough for me because it was that first Christmas where I didn't feel that just that automatic joy
out.
that
Mm,
comes
yeah.
in from the holidays. It was before Declan and Selena, but it was like I think it was when I didn't have a I don't think I had a job at the time. It had been a lot of rough stuff that
Mm,
just happened that year, and that was just like the icing on the cake was, hey, at least I have the holidays to look forward to. And when it came up, I didn't I didn't feel that
yeah.
spark, and it was so rough because I'm like, I've always loved Christmas. I've always loved the holidays. It's always been my favorite time of year. And I was absolutely distraught, absolutely miserable. And honestly, that was probably around the time when I did make the decision like, I think I'm gonna look into professional help.
I thought you were gonna say, "I think we should have
No, no,
children."
no, 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 no. That is not ever the answer as far
I'm not
as
saying it's the answer. I just thought
listen,
that you
I
were gonna
love
say.
my children,
So
but they
you
are
were
not the answer to less
no.
stress or an easier life.
No. No,
I'm
they're
not
not.
gonna tell you that
So,
lie.
getting back to the important theme that you had before I threw my
Yeah,
joke in there.
but
So you were saying that that's actually what tilted you into to
it
getting
was
therapy
when
or getting some sort of mental health
yes, it
treatment?
was because that was like it was when that happened, that was when it was like, okay, I this feels weird. This doesn't feel
Mm,
it didn't feel normal because it's like when you're happy or when you're joyful,
yeah,
that's a feeling that you always want to have. It's something that you
yeah,
don't want to go away. And when
yeah.
it's been, I think one of the things that made me realize it was after I realized I'm like, okay, I'm not enjoying the holidays. I'm just always down and out. And I remember going to the doctor asking me, so they and I'll never forget the way she worded. She said, "How often do you have a good day?" And I was like,
Mm.
"What's a good day?" She goes, "A good day." I was like, "Oh no." Like it was really it was really bad. But the thing is, it was one of those things where it's you get so much perspective from talking to someone else or even looking at
Yeah.
somebody else. And that kind of reminds me of what happened with this Justice League episode. John was with Clark and they both got to see
Mm,
things. Hawkgirl was with Green Lantern and they both got to see their
mhm.
different perspectives on things. And of course, Flash was working with Ultra-Humanite and they got to
Yeah.
see their perspectives on things. It was like by the end, all of them appreciated each other so much more just from perspective.
Yeah.
Perspective
Yeah.
goes such a long way. And
It
yeah.
really does. Yeah, there are times where I'll be working with someone and ironically they'll start beating themselves up because we'll be processing through something, talking through something that they're struggling with. And then it'll be seemingly easy to come up with a way forward. It's not always seemingly easy, but every now and then there's something where it's like, "Oh, well, why don't why don't I change this little thing in this direction? Or maybe I should think about it this way, or maybe instead of responding that way, I want to do this other thing." And sometimes someone will beat themselves up for like, "Well, why didn't I come up with this before?" And it's like you were saying, that perspective, being able to have that space and having the right set of tools and atmosphere to
Hmm.
allow for that process to happen, it's so important, it's so helpful in terms of being able to move forward. And ironically, sometimes it's so helpful that sometimes like you were saying, like those aha moments, like, well, why didn't I have that aha moment before? Because you didn't these spaces are created purposely to help with
Yeah.
those things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like,
Yeah.
yeah, the I think the joy of Christmas and the joy of just holidays comes from that nostalgic feeling you have from
Mm.
the first good one that you have. I'll put it that way because everybody didn't grow up even enjoying the holidays. It was one of those things,
Or having
or
those good
having those,
moments.
right,
Yeah.
right. But you
Mhm.
always remember how you feel in the good moments. And that's what lets you know, like, hey, this isn't normal.
Yeah.
There's something
And
off here.
so I think those are key things that you're pointing out. So I was talking about how I like John and Hot Girl because they showed more complex reactions to the
Hmm.
holidays. So let's say you had a great childhood, you love the holidays like you, and that nostalgia doesn't hit. There can be that pressure, or all of a sudden you're less satisfied with life, even though you might be feeling the same, but it feels worse because you're not having those joyful, good, nostalgic feelings that you want to have. So sometimes the expectation or the desire for what we want, it creates this disconnect with how we're feeling
Hmm.
now, and therefore you feel worse. Kind of like what you were
Yeah.
talking about. Or you can have something else where maybe you don't have that nostalgia to build off of. There are people who did not have those positive memories
Right.
growing up. There are people who might have had some really terrible memories connected to the holidays, even. And so then these times of year, maybe you write them off and you try and ignore that they're there, or it could be salt in the
Hmm.
wound because no matter where you turn, you're seeing all of these examples of things that you didn't
Right.
have. Another thing that can happen is a symptom of depression. Let's take depression in particular, is that you don't get joy out of the things that you normally enjoy. That enjoyment isn't just naturally there like you'd expect
Right.
it to be. And so that can feed into all the things. So it's not just necessarily having a stressful time, or you're growing up, or maybe you're not getting along with your family as well, or maybe you have those bad memories, but it also can be a
Hmm.
symptom. Once again, relating back to what you were talking about, where just not being able to feel things in their
Right.
totality, including enjoyment, it can be a sign of something going on. And that's when, like you said, getting some perspective. having someone you can bounce some things off of can be super helpful, whether it's like in the show, where it's a friend, or hey, maybe a nemesis.
Yeah.
Sometimes that can
Yeah.
be helpful as long as it's done with boundaries set, or like you were talking about with a professional.
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing, I mean, it just sticks out to me because one of the things I think about is Ultra-Humanite in that episode. One of the things that I thought was so beautiful about it was I think he realized he wasn't alone. Like he's
Yeah.
normally the villain. He's used to the world just hating him and him not having anything in common with anyone. That's his whole thing. He's the
Mm-hmm.
ultimate human. He's the Ultra-Humanite. He is just above all of it. But he still has those same feelings and emotions, even if
Yep.
he doesn't want to necessarily. And
Mm-hmm.
he locks in with the Flash, and it's like, okay, this is this is nice. Yeah, sure. Take me back to jail. Go for it. It is what it is. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
it's fine. And it was, and at the same time, there's, even when he's sitting in the jail cell and looking at the Christmas tree, and Flash just kind of pokes his head around the corner and smiles, like seeing him
Yeah.
enjoy it. It was just so, it just made me really, really happy because it's just so many people are going through so much right now, whether it's
Mm-hmm.
family issues, whether it's financial issues, whether it's, I mean, of course, mental health issues. And I mean, so many
Mm-hmm.
people are going through so much. And one of the best feelings in the world is knowing that you aren't alone. And it's so easy
Yeah.
to feel alone. I remember, like, even going back to what I was talking to before, my birthday is also in December. And so, in addition to not having that Christmas joy, I also remember being lonely at my own birthday party. And I was like, oof,
Mm.
that's not, this isn't, this isn't right. This isn't, this is
Yeah.
just wrong. Like, I'm in a room full of people that I know love me and I believe love me, but I just
Mm-hmm.
feel so isolated, so alone. And it's one of the hardest things you can do is reach out. But
Yeah.
it wasn't until I was in a situation that I am used to feeling a different way, It's
Mm.
yeah,
You needed that starker
right,
contrast to 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 scare you
right.
into it,
It's almost like when
essentially.
you go
Yeah.
to a restaurant and they completely change the taste of your favorite dish. And you're like, what? This isn't
Mm.
right. Like this,
Yeah. Where if maybe there was like a little more salt or they changed a little something here or there, you might just
right.
write it off. But yeah, if the
Whole
entire
thing.
thing just is
Yeah.
completely, yeah.
And it's like, yeah, that's the closest physical thing I can relate it
Yeah.
to, just knowing like this just feels off. This just doesn't feel right. And that Hawkgirl felt that way because she's like, I'm not used to
Mm.
this. I'm far away from any of my people. That John felt that way with the loss of the
Mm.
Martians. Clark
Yeah.
is looking forward to this because when he's at home with the Kents, it's probably one of the only times where he doesn't feel so alone in the world, because when he's off in
Well, and it's the
Metropolis,
one time he doesn't have to be
yeah,
responsible
he
for
gets to be a
everything.
big kid and it's great. It's
Yeah.
so fun. It's
Mhm.
so fun watching that. And then even Flash is like, I know what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna go cheer up the kids at the orphanage. And all of a sudden he's in a position where he's like, what do I do? I'm lost. I can't do that for them this time. And this just isn't right. Like, I need this. I really need
Mhm.
this. And it was, yeah, I really loved this episode and just the perspective that it gave from all of the different angles.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. You did mention how it's not a part 2. I would have liked 2 parts. I think it was a good choice to keep it to 1. I would have loved to see it delve into some of those depths more that we're talking
Yeah.
about. but I think it was at the same time, it's nice to keep it short, sweet, simple, and yet hinting at all these complicated
Mhm.
layers. And yeah, showing that hopefully it can be a time for everyone, even if Christmas ain't your
Yeah,
thing.
and John even gets in on it. I love when he, like, goes and takes the cookies, at the
Mm,
house, like, he basically plays Santa. I do love that because
I forgot about that. That
it
was
was
so
Oreos
great.
too. It's like, "Oh, this was not a hard sell for him." He saw the Oreos, it's like, "Oh, yeah. This is
I'm
perfect for me."
down.
But he even got in on it. He's like, "Hey, if this is what they do and this is the tradition, you know what? I'm gonna get in on bringing someone joy." And I really, yeah, I just absolutely loved how he even jumped into that. And then at the end, he's like, "What will make me feel good right now?" And it's like, "Okay, let me
Mm,
sing my song from
yep,
home. Let me sing my song from home.
yep.
If this is a holiday where family comes together, then this is going to be my tradition." And that's another thing. There's nothing wrong with making your own traditions, finding
Mhm.
your happiness during the holidays. What is
Yep.
it that makes you happy? Like, everybody has different traditions that they have. And there's nothing wrong with you saying, "Hey, I want to do this," right? I want to
Yep.
yeah.
And if your tradition is I just get through those holidays and there's something outside of that holiday season that is mine. I think that in and of itself is also a tradition.
Absolutely.
Where for some people it's this is not my thing. I lay low as best I can. And then there's something else that they do for themselves or connects them to people or is some sort of tradition. But I agree with you that creating some sort of tradition or honoring of what matters to you can be so helpful. And the holidays, the unfortunate thing about the holidays is it creates pressure to do it in a certain
Yes.
way. And so for some people, they're able to find a way to make it work for themselves. And for other people, they say, you know what? I need to take this pressure off. There's something else outside of the holidays that is that tradition or is that connected piece to what I
Right.
care about that I can
Right.
create. But I totally agree with you that finding what connects for you is what the holidays are meant to be about in a lot of ways and connecting to each other, helping each other find that happiness and peace. But if that's not your route, then hey, who are we to
Yeah.
judge? You find your way. Maybe you're the hot girl out there.
I did really love that. I just, yeah, I don't know if I want to do that. I would like to be in the vicinity while it's happening. Yeah.
That's fair. So, you don't want to be Green
Nope.
Lantern. You don't want to get pulled into the fight, but you want to be
Yeah.
someone
Maybe
laughing and amused in the
yeah, and at
corner.
the end I see the pile of people and I look over at the bartender and I say, "Happy holidays."
Thanks for nerding out with us. I'm clinical psychologist Dr. Amelia Brown.
And I'm educator and comic aficionado Keeden Hopkins. Check out my TV and movie reviews on YouTube at Team JBS. Check out our website at bat-therapy.com, our Bat Therapy YouTube channel, and follow us on social media. And don't forget our Patreon page at patreon.com/bat therapy. See you next week. Same bat time, same bat channel.